If you're thinking about quitting trading, not dramatically, not angrily, just quietly stepping away because it's become too heavy to carry anymore, I need you to listen to this. Because what you're feeling right now, that exhaustion, that doubt, that sense that maybe you're just not built for this, it's not what you think it is. And the decision you're about to make might not be the one you actually want to make. It might just be the one that feels like it would finally let you breathe again. Most people think traders quit at the beginning. When they're new, when they blow their first account, when they realize it's harder than they thought. But that's not when most traders actually quit. Most traders quit later, after they've put in time, after they've learned the concepts, after they've built an identity around this, after they've told people they're a trader. They quit in a phase that nobody talks about, a phase that feels like failure but isn't. A phase that looks like the end but might actually be right before everything shifts. And if you're in that phase right now, this video is for you. Quitting doesn't happen the way people imagine. There's no dramatic moment where you slam your laptop shut and declare you're done. It's quieter than that. It's slower. It starts with hesitation. You used to be excited to check the charts. Now you open your platform and feel nothing. Or worse, you feel dread. You start avoiding your journal, you stop reviewing your trades, you take breaks that get longer and longer. You tell yourself you're just stepping back for a bit, but deep down you know you're detaching. And then one day you realize you haven't placed a trade in weeks. You're still watching the market, but from a distance. Like you're on the outside looking in, you haven't officially quit, but you're not really in it anymore either. You're just stuck, suspended, between continuing and walking away. And that in-between space, that's where it gets heavy. Because you're not moving forward, but you're not letting go. You're just carrying the weight of something you're no longer sure you can do. This phase doesn't feel like progress. It feels like failure. It feels like proof that maybe all those doubts you had about yourself were right. Maybe you're not disciplined enough. Maybe you're not smart enough. Maybe trading just isn't for you. And the worst part is that you're past the beginner stage. You understand the concepts. You know what you're supposed to do, which makes it even more confusing why you can't seem to make it work. If you were brand new, you could blame inexperience. But you're not new anymore. So what's the excuse now? That question, that feeling, it wears you down. And eventually, quitting starts to feel less like giving up and more like relief, like finally putting down something you've been carrying too long. Let me tell you why this phase exists and why it shows up exactly when it does. In the beginning, trading is exciting. It's possibility. You're learning. Every new concept feels like progress. Losses don't hit as hard because you're still figuring things out. You have hope because you haven't been tested yet. You haven't proven to yourself that you can't do it, so the belief that you can is still intact. But then you stay in long enough. You learn the technical side. You understand price action, risk management, psychology concepts. You're no longer ignorant. And that's when something shifts. Because now you know what you're supposed to do, but you're still not doing it consistently. Now losses feel different. They feel personal. They feel like evidence that knowing isn't enough, that maybe you're the problem. And this is the phase where most traders get stuck. You're not a beginner anymore, so you can't blame lack of knowledge. But you're not profitable yet, so you can't call yourself successful. You're in between. And that in-between space is psychologically brutal because there's no clear identity to hold on to. You're not learning anymore, you're just trying. And trying without visible progress feels like failing in slow motion. What happens in this phase is your confidence starts to erode. Not all at once, just gradually. Trade by trade. Mistake by mistake. You start second-guessing yourself. You hesitate on setups you used to take with conviction. You take trades you know you shouldn't take because you're trying to prove something to yourself. You move stops. You exit early. You break your own rules and then feel disgusted with yourself afterwards. And every time you do this, you lose a little more trust in yourself. And here's what makes it worse. You're aware of what you're doing. You're not unconsciously making mistakes. You see yourself breaking rules in real time. You know you shouldn't move that stop. You know you shouldn't take that revenge trade. But you do it anyway. And that gap between knowing and doing, that's what destroys self-trust. Because how can you trust yourself to follow a plan when you've proven to yourself over and over that you won't? This isn't a knowledge problem. This is an execution problem, and execution problems are psychological. They're about emotional regulation, impulse control, patience, discipline. And those things can't be learned from a video. They have to be developed through experience, through repetition, through failing and adjusting and trying again. But when you're in the middle of that process, it doesn't feel like development. It feels like being stuck. Here's what I need you to understand. This phase, this heavy, exhausting, doubt-filled phase, it's not proof that you can't do this. It's proof that you're deep enough in the process for it to actually matter. Beginners don't feel this way because they haven't invested enough yet. They can walk away easily because they haven't built an identity around it, but you have. You've told yourself and maybe others that you're a trader. You've spent months or years on this. You've put in real time, real effort, real emotion, and now it feels like all of that might have been for nothing. But that feeling, that heaviness, it's not failure, it's transition. You're between who you were when you started and who you need to become to make this work. And that space in between is uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. Because you're outgrowing old patterns, old ways of thinking, old emotional reactions, and the new patterns haven't fully formed yet. So you're in this awkward stage where the old way doesn't work anymore, but the new way doesn't feel natural yet. Most traders quit right here, right before the internal shift happens, right before the discipline starts to feel automatic instead of forced, right before the patience becomes baseline instead of something they have to manufacture. They quit because they can't see that they're actually close. They just see that they're tired. And tired feels like done. But tired isn't done. Tired is just tired. And sometimes the answer isn't to quit, it's to rest. To step back without stepping away. To reduce the pressure without abandoning the process. If this video is putting words to something you've been feeling, leave a like and subscribe. This channel is for traders who are still here, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't feel like progress, even when quitting sounds easier than continuing. Let me tell you what happens when traders push through this phase the right way. Not by forcing, not by trying harder, but by changing their relationship to the process. They stop measuring themselves by daily or weekly results. They stop expecting every trade to validate them. They stop tying their self-worth to their P&L. They start focusing on execution instead of outcomes. Did I follow my plan? Did I manage my emotions? Did I make the decision I was supposed to make? Those become the metrics, not profit, not win rate, just process. And when you make that shift, when you stop asking, am I profitable yet, and start asking, am I executing better than I was last month, the pressure changes. It's still work. It's still uncomfortable, but it's not crushing anymore. Because you're measuring yourself on things you can actually control, and control, even small control, brings back confidence. The other thing that changes is they stop comparing their timeline to others. They stop thinking they should be further along by now. They accept that trading takes as long as it takes, that there's no schedule, no deadline, just repetition and adjustment until something clicks. And once they let go of the timeline, they stop feeling behind. They stop feeling like they're failing. They're just doing the work, day by day, trade by trade. And eventually, without drama, without a big breakthrough moment, things start to stabilize. Losses get smaller. Mistakes get less frequent. Execution gets cleaner. It's not a switch that flips. It's a gradual shift that you only notice when you look back and realize you're not in the same mental space you were 3 months ago. Here's what I want you to sit with. If you're thinking about quitting, ask yourself this. Are you quitting because trading genuinely doesn't fit your life anymore? Or are you quitting because you're exhausted from trying to force results on a timeline that doesn't exist? Those are two very different things. The first one is valid. Sometimes people realize trading isn't what they actually want. That's fine. That's honest. But the second one, that's not about trading. That's about impatience. That's about expectations. That's about needing external validation that you're on the right path before you've given the path enough time to prove itself. If you're in the second category, if you're exhausted because you're trying to control things you can't control, the answer isn't quitting. The answer is adjusting how you're engaging. Trade less, risk less, remove the pressure, stop trying to prove something, stop trying to make it happen on your schedule, just execute your plan, review, adjust, repeat, without expectation, without needing it to work right now. Because here's the truth, the shift you're waiting for, The one where trading finally clicks, it doesn't happen because you figured out some new technical concept. It happens when you stop fighting yourself, when you stop sabotaging your own process with impatience and doubt and emotional trades, when you finally align your behavior with your plan, when execution becomes automatic instead of forced. And that alignment doesn't come from working harder, it comes from working longer, from repetition, from building trust with yourself one decision at a time, from proving to yourself that you can follow through even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when there's no immediate reward. Most traders never get there because they quit right before that alignment happens. They quit when they're tired, when they're frustrated, when they can't see progress, and they walk away thinking they failed. But they didn't fail. They just stopped too soon. I'm not going to tell you not to quit. I'm not going to tell you to push through no matter what, because some people genuinely should walk away. Some people are forcing something that doesn't fit, and that's okay. But if you're going to quit, quit from clarity, not from exhaustion, not from frustration, not from comparing yourself to where you think you should be. Step back if you need to. Take a break. Reduce your trading. Remove the pressure. But don't make a permanent decision from a temporary emotional state, because exhaustion lies. It makes everything feel heavier than it is. It makes quitting feel like the only option when it's really just one option. You're closer than you think. I know it doesn't feel like it. I know you're tired. I know you're doubting yourself. But that doubt, that exhaustion, it's not proof you can't do this. It's proof that you're in the hardest part, the part where most people quit. The part right before the internal shift that changes everything. And if you can just hold on a little longer, not by forcing, but by simplifying, by focusing on process instead of results, by building trust with yourself one trade at a time, you might look back on this moment and realize it wasn't the end. It was the turning point. This is Trader's Mental Edge, where trading starts in the mind.